recording. Hello everyone. Welcome to episode. We're in double figures, guys. We're actually in double figures. Episode 10. We made it. We've not killed each other. We've not killed anyone on the internet. I don't think.
We've gained on average 11 listeners an episode.
Yeah, we've surpassed quite substantially now 100 followers. No, I think it's like on 119 or something. Isn't it? Last time I checked. Big boys now earning money. We're all retiring soon. So yeah, episode 10. Yeah. So should we start? What have we got today? Have we got news first, Liam, or are we just straight into our what we've been hobbying? I think, haven't we, today? Because I think we covered the news in the last episode, didn't we?
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing that's happened in the world of Warhammer over the last 2 weeks.
Quite literally, yeah. Yeah. Oh well, no, that's the lie. There is a bit of news. You can buy overpriced men at arms and archers for the Bretonians.
Oh yeah, the made to order.
Yeah, the made to order, which is no. You do a perfectly fine metal kit, where
Plastic kit.
Plastic kit. Sorry, yeah. I mean, the metal ones are nice, but they're not worth the money. Let's be honest.
I mean, like, I could be tempted by a command for the archers to go with my old bowmen potentially, but that's about as far. As soon as like when the mounted yeomen came out, they were just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, because I think they were like 50 quid for just the 5 normal dudes, which actually don't do anything apart from die horribly. But yeah, we've got a new layout as well. We've been messing about with the layout, so we've got smaller boxes so you can see less of our secret.
Yeah, so you can complain even more about not being able to see.
Yeah. So you just see our faces now rather than the rest of our crappy rooms, our hobby rooms. So, right, should we go on to see what we've been doing hobby wise? I'll give you this bit, Liam.
We'll let you go first, Dan.
What have I been doing? Yeah, that is literally it. The last time we streamed, when was it, Liam? About 3 years ago, episode 9.
2 weeks. 2 weeks almost to 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, no, we did Friday, didn't we?
2 weeks, yeah. 2 weeks.
So we're actually on schedule. We've actually got a schedule going now.
Like it's to get the episode out.
Well, to be fair, I might edit it tonight because I've got nothing else on. But we'll see. Yeah. So what I've been doing. So me and Jack are going to up to the Durham Raiders. I don't know what they call it. What's it called? Massacre in something? Middelheim or something like that?
Yeah, Middelheim Massacre. Or
something like that. So a 40-player event up in Durham. It's not actually in Durham. It's on the outskirts of Durham.
Yeah, at the end of January next year. My first 2026 event booked in.
So I've not been panicking. I've kind of been like toying with lists because
like the pack's not even out. Nothing,
no, the pack's not out.
Dan's already flapping.
And
I'm already flapping because. Well, so I've been speaking to Aaron, the organizer, and he's been like, he can't wait to see all the Cathay players because they will all be there. So I'm thinking, what kills Cathay? Shooting. I know. Let's build. Let's build another 20 Outriders. So yes, I'm running 30 Outriders, and quite literally, witch hunters on horses, as you can see there. That is an actual witch hunter blue tacked to a horse. Although now they are actually. I don't think did I send you these pictures earlier, guys? I can't remember if I did.
I said, "Send me any pictures you want," and you said, "No, I've done nothing."
Well, I did this earlier, but there you go. They are actually on the horses now. So that's my hobby. That is literally all the hobby that I've done this week, and I built those guys to play a game Wednesday, where I played my good friend Al, who I run the events with, and we lasted 2 turns because it's absolutely horrific, the amount of shooting this list does. And actually, no, that was only with 20 of them, so I've actually got 10 more of the dudes that do the damage. So yeah, why not? It's going to be an absolute sweat fest up there, isn't it? So
this is the Empire balloon.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for. Empire War Wagon balloon. In fact, I could do that, couldn't I? You could use one of my lanterns. And this is all your fault, Liam, anyway. I've completely said I'm not using Cathay until they get dealt with.
And this list is going to be the list to deal with them.
Yeah.
Probably not. No, so the list is that's not actually the main core. So they've now split up into 2 units of 15 as well. So that they're core, and then I've got a big blob of 30 halberdiers and a detachment of handgunners, because in Nuln you have to take the detachment and stuff.
Sorry, one unit of 30.
1 unit of
30 outriders.
It's 30. 30 halberdiers with a mage in it, and von Lohenhacker, beefy guy.
Liam's Balloon said already just imagining dropping a strength 5 big template on those halberdiers.
He'll not be going first, though. That's the problem. So the reason why Lohenhack's in there, and the reason I've split the units into 2 units of 30, is so I'm literally a 4-drop.
Minimum drop.
Yeah. Sorry, I pressed screen print then, and it turned me into trying to capture screen prints. So I'm only 4-drop. So he gives you +1 to your starter, or +1 or -1 to C2 goes first, and then hopefully I outdrop my opponent, which then will give me +2 to the roll, which we worked out yesterday. If I roll 1 or a 2, I'm in trouble. Anything above that, I should be all right. So
good working out.
Which is, I'm going to roll 1 and 2 on every single game now, Anna. Let's be honest. Yeah. But yeah, there's Hellblast and stuff in it as well, so it should be all right. It is literally tailored to kill anything that doesn't shoot me back. Is essentially it.
Given that I usually play just full send armies, none of them really enjoy the prospect of running something like this.
No. I think literally, the only problems I will have is other shooting armies. Obviously, Cathay anyway, if they get to go first, or multiple balloons, which I'm almost certain they will be, because I can only kill probably 1, maybe 2 at a push a turn, depending on dice rolls, obviously, which the game is anyway. So, yeah. But yeah, that's essentially what I've been doing, is trying to organise, because it obviously all needs painting as well. So I want to settle on a list.
You got loads.
But I've got an entire army to paint, and there's loads of models.
Like 10,000 points of Empire, and then you can just choose whatever you want come the week before.
No, I've probably got about 10,000 Empire as well. That's the problem.
Just get it painted, easy.
No, I'm okay.
So yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't have time to do that anymore. Too busy. Right, and it's not even a baby's fault. I'm just busy at work. More stuff on at work. So, right, who wants to go next? That's my hobby. Apart from that, I played a game on Wednesday. That were it. So
I'll do my actual hobby, and it's done. I've painted 0 models in the last month. I burnt myself out, and now I haven't done anything.
You're like, I've literally just got this 1 unit to highlight. It's fine. I'll get that done in the next month.
No.
I think we both said though, Liam, didn't we? We've kind of lost his hobby mojo at this moment in time. But
it's just burnout. I'll get back onto it. I built something earlier today.
You need something to paint for, don't you? I think that's the thing.
Yeah. Print yourself out a nice little Mordheim Warband, Liam, and paint yourself some more squigs or something.
Oh, actually, Jack, one of the guys at the club's actually thinking about running a Mordheim campaign. If you guys are interested, if you can get down.
Travel to Sheffield once a week on 1 day of a week, I can never do.
Absolutely,
be fine.
Absolutely. Why would you not?
Anyway, moving on from that, someone who has done hobby is Jack.
It's me. So yeah, I think I talked about it on last episode, but I've got a bit of excitement to put some demons on the table and just see what they can do, given the hate that they've received so far. So I've spoken before about how I did similar with the ogres and got them out after everyone's slating them all over the internet. So I thought, it's about time I pulled the demons out. This is what we could do. So I got them out of the box and realised how trash they looked. I think they were one of the first armies I'd painted after finding contrasts, and there was just patchy contrasts. I'd sort of highlighted just pure white, so there's just patches of white showing through not highlighted, primed just in pure white, and there's just patches of white everywhere. Bases were just bare. So I thought I'd give them a bit of loving, give them another coat of contrast, a bit of highlighting here or there. Painted that.
You do know Nurgle's supposed to look crap, right?
Yeah, but it's supposed to look good crap, not just like terrible crap.
No, they look good.
So I pulled together sort of 2,000. Well, I actually painted all my Nurgle, which was about 4,000 or 5,000 points, and painted up that Demon Prince from scratch. He was.
I think it's really hard to get Nurgle wrong, isn't it, in terms of painting?
And
I think
like,
it's
just
almost impossible.
But they're designed to just take contrast paint perfectly.
Yeah.
So like you'll see there's a couple of different colours of contrast paint across the army just to give her a bit of mixture, rather than just sort of one solid block of green. Which is what you usually see. Picked out the sort of intestines and oozy goozy bits with various technical paints, and
the what?
Picked out the front ranks, the spots and that sort of stuff, and blisters just to make them stand out a bit more.
What was that descriptive word you just used? Oozy goozy.
Oozy goozy bits.
Oozy goozy. What?
The oozy goozy bits. So you'll see the sort of 60-odd plague bearers I painted up, a handful of characters, some toads, some drones, some objective markers, and a baggage train. With my favourite little Nurgling on top. A load of Nurgling bases, and I also had a bit of time just to pull together a couple of other baggage trains while I was at it. So I pulled one together for the Chaos Dwarves and the Standard Dwarves.
Those you've done there are almost a perfect thing I've been telling the guys at the club to do, because they've all been kind of worrying about making it an actual baggage train. I'm like, you don't. All you need is, you don't even technically need the cart there, do you? It's basically you're defending your own luggage,
especially given that it's a static.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't move anywhere. It could just be a pile of barrels, couldn't it? Really,
pile of weapons.
Yeah, like who was it now? It's Joe, one of the guys at the club. He plays dwarves. I'm like, well, why don't you get some barrels or get some 3D printed, like is it the 4X Bungman? Or whatever it is. Just have barrels and barrels of them, and that's
you'll see the X's marked on the dwarf barrels there, and
so
that's what I thought for the Nurgle one, and it's just like the oozy goozy volcano, where I just figured, like lore wise, they could just become spouting out that thing, and that's where they get the Nurgling replacements from, and that sort of stuff. So I just thought it was, a nice little easy way to do something a bit cool in the army for not much effort and time. Smashed through all those in a weekend, probably getting them all up to scratch, and then realised that the plague bearers and the beasts of Nurgle were all on the wrong base size. So then I had to go and get a load of converters, and then I painted up the bases of them to match like the green bits on the bases, so that the goop was touching goop on the extenders, and so they all matched perfectly. So it took a bit of time, but I thought it was worth just spending the extra bit just to make sure it looked good on the table.
We know someone else who had to rebase their models after being on the wrong base as well, don't we, Liam? With your what do you call them? The skin wolves, yeah.
Oh yeah, those. Yeah, like printed in the book on one.
I think a lot of people did, didn't they?
Yeah.
So not a lot of time, but I spent most of my time getting these demons up to spec. I hadn't submitted an army list for these when I started sort of going over them, so I just did the whole, both 18-liter really useful boxes worth of models, got them all up to spec, so that I could just pick and grab in the future as I wanted to. Got them done the day before the tournament was due, so I must have submitted the list sort of halfway through doing it. So I must have picked my list sort of halfway through painting them, which I think was after I'd painted all the stuff that I didn't actually end up taking. So which is usually the way.
Is this the one you both went to, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, is it ranked only flanks?
Only
flanks. That's it. Yeah.
It hosts that 7th City Collectibles.
Yeah, Nottingham.
Down in South Nottingham. That was my hobby. And I haven't touched anything since.
Well,
I did have a couple of games in the fortnight then. Playing against a chap who hasn't played in about 10, 15 years.
So you played him at AOS?
No. But he played in 5th and 6th edition. So brought out my high elves for a game. I used a couple of pictures there. just kind of a fairly infantry-based high elves with a big block of silverhounds. But we kind of just fought and played a pretty standard game of Old World. And apart from the White Lions just turning it on, and they killed 3 dragon ogres on the charge, and then turned and charged for Shagoff and killed that as well. About the only real noticeable, like, outside of what you'd expect to happen in a game. It was quite nice to not play with anything big and stompy and just play honest Warhammer for once.
The man with the black and white lines.
Yeah. What have now suddenly got Furious Charge and will kill 3 dragon ogres and a Shagoff on the charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that took me a whole Beastman army to do that. You did it with a few white lions.
And then last night I played a game in Mr. Wildman and his Norn list. He hadn't played Cafe, so we have a game, and he got introduced to it, and
he's not going to again.
Doesn't like, basically doesn't like the balloon. I think we're at a point where, like, it's a competitive game. He's kind of checked out and just wants to play fun silly lists. So next time we play, I'll not take the lantern and maybe take a different army. But
was this the same list you took to the tournament?
Yeah, exactly the same.
He knows he can't be beaten with it, so he's just running it out, ruining lives.
Now, I thought he was bringing a harder list than he was, and he wasn't. So
yeah, a lot of war wagons.
We ended
Do you know
it.
what the frightening thing is, though? Those war wagons are actually more expensive base than the lantern, but they do 1,000 times less.
Yeah. It's like, why have you got 6 blunderbusses and I've got 1 blunderbuss?
Yeah.
Was roughly how the conversation went.
Yeah.
Them's the rules.
It's true though. I'm surprised that they did get like the assortment of weapons rather than being able to give them all. I mean, they're never going to be as good as the Iron Hail guns or the Dragonfire bombs, but you didn't give them the option to have like even like the repeater handguns. They'd have been awesome. Like just 4 guys with repeater handguns in there.
Well, the whole idea is it's full of experimental weaponry that they go and try out, isn't it? And then report back, and War Wagon Mark II might just have blunderbusses and handguns in. But for now,
mortar in it.
Yeah. Well, we used to have them, didn't they? Or different steam tanks. We had different ones of.
On Total War, they do, don't they?
Yeah, I think I think they're like the I don't know if they're like the non-specific ones on the campaign, but the steam tanks had different versions, of them. I think one had like a Hellblaster in it, I think, if I remember rightly, and then a mortar on the back of it or something stupid like that.
Yeah. The one having a war wagon top on as well.
The real one.
Of course,
The halfling cooking pot one.
Cook pot, yeah.
I don't know if that exists.
I'd love that. Was that in Dogs of War? I'd love to see that.
I don't think there's a
multiple cooking pots. What's the one thing to kill a lantern? A hobbit? No, sorry, a halfling cooking pot. Does 2d6 damage. It's a las cannon.
So big win then.
Yeah. And
Has he quit playing Warhammer now?
Nah, Mashugengan did have to go and hide towards the end of the game because he'd been shot by 15 outriders multiple times. But survived on a couple of wounds. So just when it hit behind the hill.
15 needs 30.
Right, shall we move on to the main topic then? Quite a quick intro this week.
Your event.
Yes. So last weekend now. So me and Liam headed down to Juggernaut Wargaming's Only Flanks tournament, which was a very well run event. It was, the tickets were decently priced, 40 quid for the weekend, which basically
included food.
There was free parking on site, and some very good prize support. There was a lot of boxes of Warhammer given out at the end, and they were done on sort of like a raffle basis, so everyone's name who was in the tournament just got put into a pot and got pulled out. So it wasn't, it sort of encouraged you didn't have to take the nasty list, Liam.
But you could if you wanted to.
But you could if you wanted to, and it wouldn't hinder you either way. So we
You
both
won
had
a box of squigs, didn't you?
I got a box of squigs, yeah.
I got nothing.
No,
It's
yeah, well,
fine.
you got enough already.
Nothing but abuse.
So yes, let's go into it.
So your list, Jack?
Yes, here's my army. So I took every Nurgle. So there's unit 4 Nurglings. So I was using the Renegade pack, which is the tournament we're using. So we had 4 Nurglings, 4 Beasts of Nurgle, a unit of 20 Plague Bearers with full command, and they had the banner which let me rerolls 1s to wound, but as always, I forgot about that 90% of the time. A unit of 7 Harpies, because 7 is Nurgle's favourable number. 3, I can't remember what they call, Rotfly things, Plague Drones, with full command.
Are they called Plague Drones in what? I know they are in AOS, but
Plague Drones, I think. Yeah.
Are they got? Yeah.
Yeah.
We
had a BSB who was the Bile Piper. You can just sort of see in the front left of the unit. He gives +1 movement to anything within 12 inches. So that's really nice because Nurgle are quite a slow army.
I'm gonna say, do they move like 4 or something? Don't they?
4 largely across the board. The beasts and the flies, obviously, and the flying stuff are a bit faster, but the infantry and the Nurglings are only 4. And then we had the Great Unclean One as the general. He had the Plague Flail, so it's like strength 8 AP3 D3 wounds on the charge, so that's pretty tasty. And he had a 4-up armor save upgrade. And who was a level 1, which I only realized sort of like towards the end of the first game that he was just built in as a level 1. So I was like, oh, he's got no magic. And then towards the end, I was like, oh, wait, he should have been having magic. So I just banged him onto battle magic and he just took hammer hand pretty much every game. And then Demon Prince, who was flying, and he was level 4 in Demonology. So he was in there to sort of really support. So I made the mistake previously of playing the Demon Prince in the Warriors army and thinking he was the main character, when in reality I sort of brought him here to be the support piece for the army and just sort of really help sort of buff up things when they needed it, before getting into combat. And he took the 8th blade, which is just no armor save. So it's pretty scary to some things like knights and that sort of those sort of things with high armor saves, but not even low toughness because he was strength 6, so even sort of relatively high toughness stuff he was still bashing through. And then you see my sort of objectives and baggage train. So fairly well balanced list, I think. And it's basically everything that is Nurgle that you can take. And Liam brought his well-versed Cathay.
It's just the same list as last time. So Shugengun with the Blade of a Great Jade Fleet and an extra spell, level 3. A Magistrate on a Sky Lantern with Dragonfly Grenade on the bomb rack, Alchemist Mask and the Crystal of Kowloon for the ward save. A couple of boxes of 19 Jade Warriors with a no fly banner on one of them. Unit of 6 Jade Lancers with full command. 2 Grand Cannons and a Fire Rain, all with an Ogre and grenades. And a Granite Sentinel to round out the list. But I said before, it's kind of like the one of everything, bar the second Great Cannon and the second unit of Warriors, just to make it enough points, really. And
still a unit there, still an unhighlighted unit of infantry there.
Still the unhighlighted unit of infantry, which I say next event's not for about a month, so I'll get them done for that.
You better.
So my game won first, so I got drawn against a Vampire Councilist, which I wasn't very happy about getting drawn against first. Having not used the demons yet, I didn't really know what they were about, and sort of got put up against this army with a decent sized block of Graveguard with a vampire in, Mortis Engine, Banshee, a few Necromancers, BSB, block of Skellies, block of Zombies, some bats, and some blood knights, and some dogs. So I was a bit worried going into this one. I didn't really know how to play it, so I basically went for a sort of sort of like a false flank. So I sort of started off putting my harpies on the left flank, which he just countered with some zombies, and then I went sort of heavy on the right flank and put my plague drones down there, which he got a bit worried about and put his blood knights opposite. But there was a nice big bit of impassable terrain basically then, which separated his blood knights from the rest of his army. He went quite central with the rest of his sort of grave guard, his skellies, and all his characters pretty much in the center. So I sort of tried to draw out those blood knights, which I was most scared of, onto the sort of right flank, and then my plan was basically just fly back across the board and ignore those as much as I could. So I think I had a lot less drops in them, so I'd even had to put my characters down. So I put the demon prince down on that right flank as well, which, for some reason he decided his blood knights would go out there and sort of deal with those. And I basically put everything else on the left flank. I left the beast of Nurgle pretty centrally, just I thought they could possibly grind a bit, but again, I hadn't actually put anything on the table yet to know what could do what.
So your first game with this army was this game?
This game, yeah.
Right.
I barely opened the rule book. I only realised at the end of the game that the plague swords stopped regen, and he has the extra regen banner on his grave guard, and you can see my plague bearers were as far away from the grave guard as they could have been. So ideally, I would have just put them right in front of them and sort of let them sort of duke it out, and I feel like they would have probably won that fight. But I didn't do that, and I also made the mistake of putting my demon prince on the opposite side of the board, just completely forgetting he was my level 4 caster, and I'd rolled Steed of Shadows and was like, right, I'm going to eat something up the board straight away, and then was out of range of all my spells for half the game. So it wasn't a great start. But that's where we were. So sort of pushed everything up the left flank as far as I could, and dealt with some zombies on that flank pretty quickly, which allowed me sort of to wrap around to the center and support my beast of Nurgle, which I just held back, and I basically was like, I'll let you come to me. He was quite aggressive with his grave guard, and I was quite happy for that. So I was like, I'll leave the beast there. They were up against that impassable terrain, bit of hill, so I knew they weren't going anywhere. And I was just like, I hope they look like on paper that they're pretty tough and they can sort of stand up. His grave guards only had sword and board. There wasn't that much sort of offensive power other than the vampire in there. And I thought, we'll just hope they can hold long enough for me to get some support in as I sort of enveloped around the flanks. The plague drones came in. Plague drones and demon prince basically abandoned that right flank, said we've got no interest in fighting those blood knights at the minute, we'll focus on everything else. So they came through to the center with basically the sights set on the mortis engine. Then he sort of pushed up through the middle, engaged with the beast with his grave guard, and basically got stuck in a prolonged combat there, which allowed my Nurglings, who had sort of deployed up by that little building, allowed them to get into the flank, and it gave the Great Unclean one time to smash through those zombies, wrap back around, and come into the rear of that unit. So over 2-3 turns, I just sort of ground through those grave guard and didn't really lose. I think I lost Great Unclean Beast of Nurgle over that whole combat. So it was pretty pretty crushing for those grave guard, because I sort of pinned the mortis engine in combat with the demon prince, and the plague flies had hunted down the sort of lone necromancers that were sort of floating around behind. They just didn't have anywhere to hide, so I got into those and killed those off. So he didn't have anything invocating his unit back, and I just sort of pinned it in place and just gradually sort of squished it through. The
2 grindy armies and yours was more grindy.
Yes. Yeah. Decent toughness was the main difference when he's only got the sort of lower strength, because he's not got the great weapons. I was just able to sort of withstand it a bit more, and I've got the ward save.
So it's just a slog in it. That whole game is just a slog.
Yeah,
it is literally whoever rolls better. Essentially.
Yeah. So I think I basically wrapped up his whole army. Apart from the vampire survived in that unit, I think I'd sort of ground it down to where there was only like one grave guard and the vampire left, so there wasn't enough things for me to kill to get enough combat res to crumble him out. Because everything in there didn't really have any combat res, any static combat res for me. The only thing that's really got static is the plague bearer block, and a banner on the fly. So I've not got much static res, so I just have to kill stuff to in these sort of fights. So the Doom Prince killed the Mortis engine off pretty sharpishly. And by that time, the Blood Knights had got sort of round into my rear, and I basically had the option of, do I put the Demon Prince into the Grave Guard? There's still probably 10-15 of them left at that point, and support the other units, or do I risk throwing him into the Blood Knights? Actually had the no armor save weapon. So I was sort of like, I think they had like 3 static res built into them, and I was like, if I whiffed my attacks, I could just crumble out and die in one round of the combat. But he went in, did nothing. Day 1 combat, and I just rolled low enough on my leadership test not to crumble out. He's got sort of the built-in -2 to crumble effectively, so we just drew and nothing happened. So I was like, oh, okay, this isn't good. And then the next turn he just killed all 5, and hit 5 times, wounded 5 times, and killed them all. I was like, oh, okay. Well, that was good. So yeah, I killed everything apart from the Vampire Lord, and I was a whiff away from killing him. I think we finished on with a turn maybe to go. We just obviously when you just grind in with these 2 armies, the turns can take a little while.
Was that a 6-0 in the end?
So so they were using the match play scoring. So this was a 6-0 by quite a considerable amount. And then game 2, I came up against Mike Appleton with his Beastmen. So I played Mike a few times. He's sort of one of the local TSN guys. I've played him at the club nights and at events before. And he's pretty smart with his Beastmen. He knows what he's doing. He's used them pretty much the whole
King of the Hill with baggage train, I want to say.
Yes. So he's used these pretty much the whole all so far. So he knows what he's doing.
I think you played him at my event as well, didn't you, Liam?
I did. I've played him maybe 3 or 4 times at events over the last 18 months.
Lovely lad.
Yeah. And very nice army. So we got King of the Hill. I think this was the only game I got first turn potentially. This and game 5. I think I got turn 1, and we had the hill. I put my plague bearers on one side because I know they were what I wanted to get on there. He put his gore block with Killy Doombull and the Slugskin BSB and a Demonology caster in on the other side of it. I got first. I didn't get any of my Demonology buffs up, so not that the carry over to the turn, but so I wanted to capture the hill, but I was not willing to die on the hill at this point. So I basically just went up far enough to give him a max range charge. He had the little mini Swift Stride banner in there, so I basically gave him a max range charge on that. And was sort of like, if you want to take it, come and get it, and we'll see what happens. So I put both my big fighter characters basically touching the corners of either one. So he was a bit wider than me, so if he charged, you basically had to touch one of them or both of them, just to get me a bit of extra fighting. I pushed my Beasts and Nurgles up on that left flank to sort of hopefully get a sort of flank charge in if he sort of went up onto the top of the hill. Pretty foolishly, sort of that gigantic spawn on the side, I just sort of ignored him. I threw my plague drones up on the left flank and was like, I'll just kill him with death heads. He'll be fine. He'll never roll high enough to get me. So I think I was maybe 11 or 12 inches away from him and thought, it'll be fine.
You can't roll average on 3 dice.
Yeah. So I moved up, and you can see I got my Nurglings touching his Herdstone. So I took possession of the Herdstone, which was quite pivotal to my my desire to get close enough to that hill and not get absolutely stomped. So he got his next turn. He tried to get all his demonology spells off, but didn't get them off. So that was a bit of a relief to me. But he decided to go for the charge anyway. He felt his block was stronger than mine. So went for the max charge and failed, and basically stumbled up to 3 or 4 inches in front of me on the hill. His Great Unclean is not his Great Unclean one. His Gigantic Spawn charged into my Nurglings and ground through them in like 2 turns, while my beasts got sort of stuck in place. And they got hit in the flank by a Razor Gore, which beat them in combat. So they got pinned in place for a little while until the Plague Drones basically came in and killed that Razor Gore from behind and allowed them to sort of reform and charge into the Great Unclean one. I charged into him on my next turn. I again failed to get any spells off, but I thought it's better for me to charge him and get everything I want in than him potentially get his buffs off the turn after and get the guaranteed charge on me. So I just went for it. Got the charge on, hit him on the hill, and he challenged out with his Doom Ball. So my Great Unclean one accepted. I think I got 1 wound through, which got through to D3 wounds. So I got the full 3 wounds. He, I think, didn't do anything to me, and then I rolled 2 stomps and stomped him to death. My Demon Prince hacked down the Demonology Wizard on the other corner, and not much else happened because he had the Slug Skin up, so like everything else missed pretty much. But I basically took out the big threats out the block, and still had quite a lot of combat res myself. So I think I won, but only by 1 or 2, and he sort of just held. Well, I think he gave ground, and I sort of just followed up just to keep in contact with him. I think the Demon Prince was worried. I think there's 3 Valtad casters in the army, so the Demon Prince wanted to stay in combat to not risk taking a Valtide to the face. The Great Unclean one, he sort of split off and went towards that house in the top right where there was one of the wizards. Obviously he's toughness 7, so he can't get wounded by Valtide. So I basically just decided he'd go around and try and hunt some wizards down if he could. He's not as fast as them, so it's not quite that easy. But he went off that way and managed to engage with a block of gore with the wizard and sort of killed those over a couple of turns. The Razor Gore would just being a nuisance. They've always been probably my favorite units in the game, and like they proved that they're worth quite a lot in this game. They were just hitting me in flanks, hitting me in rears, blocking me off in places, and pretty much the Razor Gores were the only things to survive the game from the Beastman army, as well as the Gigantic Spawn. The Gigantic Spawn actually ground through the Beasts of Nurgle. It killed the Nurglings. I think it got all but one of the Beasts of Nurgle. It was just it just was a menace. It just wouldn't die. Even with like poison attacks, I was just not getting through. I was only strength 4, so even with poisons, I'm only wounded on 4s, and I just couldn't get through it. But I took everything else off and got another 6-0.
Wow.
So it was a good
So
result.
maximum
Because I had the hill for so long, I just ground up a load of points for the hill. So it was a good result. And that put me on 12 out of 12 points at that point.
I'm going to jump in and do my game 1.
Go for it.
So I
that
was
dragon's
again,
lovely.
Yeah, 2 dragons. It was a Chaos Heralds of Darkness list. So Lord on Dragon, 2 exalted champions in chariots, and a big blocker knight, a small blocker knight, and a Carmine dragon. So it's kind of full send, what way of putting it. And I think it roughly went that I picked something a turn and that thing died. stopping stuff flying meant that going into turn 2, he couldn't make any charges. Between that and Swiss Drive to the cannonballs, fantastic. We had, the big unit of knights had the Magic Resistance 3 banner, but I still got Plague of Rust off with the Alchemist Mask. And when you're doing the different illusion spells, like you kind of, I've said it before, but you don't beforehand, you was in a position where you'd try and cast 2 or 3 of the denial spells. Whereas now you've put in a position where you fire every single denial spell onto the same unit and hope you get one of them through.
I think the Alchemist Mask as well is straight dice, isn't it? Because I think it's bound level 3.
Yeah, it is. So you still need to roll like a 9 or something to get it off. But you get it off enough that it doesn't matter. And when you've not got magic resistance, it goes off all the time.
Yeah.
But in effect, I use a bit of terrain in the middle and wood over to the side just to deny charges and slow down people getting in.
You're very good at using the terrain to your advantage.
Thank you. Had the unit of Jade Lancers kind of marching columned themselves out of trouble and ended up behind the Chaos Army quite early on. Thought it blocked me in quite well, but just enough room to go to a table edge and zoom up the side and get out of trouble. And then for the rest of it, we kind of recalled it maybe turn 4, start of my opponent's turn 4, where the dragon, which is in the picture, is about 10 inches away from a cannon. And because he's landing in the wood, he takes the lowest dice and the negative, even though it's flying, because it's where you land. And it had been cannonballed once in the last turn, just to try and turn off its swift stride and slow it down. And you need to roll a 2 to get into combat, and failed.
Oh.
And the turn before that, he'd done the same thing, and they charged the cannon. I'd tethered off the board, or tethered, not rolled enough to go off the board. He'd rolled really poorly on his charge roll, so it didn't hit me. And yeah, I didn't give up any points and killed all the chaos in about 3 turns. So big 6-0. Game 2, similar to Jack, I also had Beastman. This was again, you see, this is something else the tournament did. You see my baggage train at the bottom. Everyone got a baggage train marker at the event that they printed off. There were different themed ones. There's about 4 different designs. So you just
I got a vampire undead one with coffins and stuff like that for my vampire arm.
So I'll be painting that up at some point in the next couple of weeks when I decide I want to get the Mojo back. This is a very similar to Michael's, in that it's got a big block of, well, this is Wild Herd, but still the same kind of theme. A big mixed block, a big block of gore, some Dragon Ogres, a unit of Ungor archers that hug the Hearthstone with 3 level 1 shamans in. And then you've got
I'm just
level
laughing
4.
at the first picture because that guy's like,
No, fuck.
Cafe.
What forget?
Damn it, cafe.
Oh, this was, it's only my first turn movement. There's nothing majorly happened at that point. And it's got a Beast Lord with one of the great big new killy weapon in it that gives him extra attacks and strength.
Oh, the black
Yeah,
mace.
I think it's the black mace,
maul,
isn't it?
black maul.
Black
one
maul,
of it's called big weapon.
D6 attacks, D6 strength, something stupid like that.
Yeah.
And then it's got his level 4 numerology and his Slug Skin BSB in there as well. So one big unit of killiness. So obviously shut all my war machines off turn 1, and I kind of just went and stood my balloon in front of him, knowing that it can't die, and it buys me another turn. I also very carefully, in my first movement phase, positioned the Sentinel at a slight angle in front of between the 2 units of Jade Warriors, so that if he charged in to a Jade Sentinel, he'd hit that, not be able to close the door, and basically it'd mean that he'd lose the initiative bonus. And also because of the way that it was the unit was wider than my Jade Sentinel by quite a bit, and the closest point was on the left-hand side of the unit as the photo is looking at it, and his Beast Lord on the right-hand side corner.
Yeah.
So the Beast Lord couldn't get into base contact with the Sentinel. I keep saying Jade, Granite Sentinel.
Yeah.
So he'd only get one attack with his big weapon. And it we talked it all through, fully understood what was going to happen. And then in my turn 2, my balloon lantern flew over that unit, dropped some bombs on it, and then after the movement phase, before I shot anything, I killed about 25 from that unit.
Just the characters left.
Yeah, it was 2 characters and 2 guys in the unit, or 3 characters, the guys in the unit. And then I put a cannonball through the BSB by accident. And yeah, so kind of.
You mean by accident?
You
fired a cannonball through his BSB.
So I'm like, I'll shoot through this one, just pointing at one of the guys, not realising that it actually was a BSB. I thought I was just shooting at the one that let me hit the unit behind it at the same time. But yeah, so did that, and that rather annoyingly now meant that unit was condensed enough. I know first world problems. I've killed 25 guys in a turn. The Sentinel was now dead because the Beast Lord could get into combat with him. So that Beast Lord killed the Sentinel in one go. Well,
Nice.
The Beast Lord finished him
That.
The Demonology Shaman actually did 3 wounds to him in combat with the Assailment spell.
Nice.
But that meant he went into the baggage train, killed that, got to start working his way through my artillery pieces in the back rank. Meanwhile, my lantern was causing problems for the shamans, dropping bombs on heads, wiping out units, kind of killed everything in the backfield.
Yeah, it's so hard to protect. I've said it before, but it's so hard to protect sort of lone characters against the balloons because they either just fly over and now they're the closest unit, or they just destroy whatever was next. Yeah. Destroy whatever was next to you with the bomb in the movement phase, and then in the shooting phase they've just got free reign. Like, I think that's the big issue, is that
they were all in the unit
targets.
Still. I'd killed maybe 7 or 8 of the Ungor with the Dragonfire bombs from the Sentinel previous turn. And they'd left them all in the unit and just gone to volatile the lancers off.
Yeah, so rather than splitting them out and sort of making it up.
Didn't split them out. I killed 2, left 1 on a wound by the time I'd randomised out or split all the damage out, because there's less than 5 models in the unit at that point. And that game finished on turn 9, I want to say, which meant I got to pick up hundreds of points through a hill over and over again. And then the Beast Lord and the Shaman were the only 2 models left on the Beastman side, running off into the corner trying to hide, getting magically thrown around the board. And that was only a 5-1.
So at this point, I was top of the table board.
You were with demons, with non-renegade demons. Well, with renegade demons, but still. Which meant going into game 3, we had each other.
Here's me again puzzled by cafe rules. That can do what? Remind me, that does what? Are you sure?
So do you want to take it away?
Yeah, so I think we had just 2 objectives possibly, or I think we just had those 2 sort of central objectives, didn't we?
3 objectives, I think, along the middle line.
Oh yeah, 3 objectives along the middle line. And yeah, having faced Liam with my Beastmen, which I considered a much stronger army than this, and failing massively a couple of weeks ago, I wasn't very optimistic going into this. My side of the board didn't really have much the boards in general didn't have much in terms of like buildings and passable terrain, so there wasn't much place to hide things like great unclean ones from cannons. So yeah, this was some weird like angle deployment as well.
Yeah, it's the one where you're like,
is it the
24
from your opponent's side and then up to the end?
Yeah, so
battle lines drawn, I think I want to call it.
Maybe we'll say you're right.
So I
Yeah,
deployed sort of fairly statically across the board. I had the sort of the flies on the right hand flank, thinking potentially he'll be focusing his sort of cannons and stuff on the other side where the Great Unclean was, so he won't be turning off their movement, and they can possibly zip around the back and sort of get into the back lines. And then I tried to stretch the army out as much as I could just to limit the sort of aura of those cannons. Just thinking if you're slowing something down, something will hopefully get across the board. So I think Liam got first turn and put 2 cannons through my Great Unclean one, left him on 1 wound.
Is that all 4 shots, or did you?
Just 2. Just 2 shots.
2. I don't think I double fired them this game at any point.
No,
I did. Right in the end, I did. But...
just 2 normal shots, and even with my ward saves and split out regen saves, didn't save a single one. So it took 6 wounds, 6 wounds instantly, and then basically just tried to push everything else up the board, and sort of like, well, at this point the Great Unclean one's going to die. So if I can get him across the board and even get 1 turn of combat out of him, hopefully he'll do some output with his sort of D3 wounds weapon. So I marched him basically up towards the Juggernaut, and put the Harpies in front of him to sort of just act like a little buffer, so that Liam basically had a choice. He can either throw a cannonball through him and waste it on like a 1 wound thing, or he could charge, but the Furies blocked off the charge from the Schengen, so he'd have to go through them, and then he'd basically have like a inch overrun into the Great Unclean one, but it'd keep him alive for another turn at least until the next combat. Or more ideally, he'd beat the Furies. They couldn't go anywhere because the Great Unclean one was behind them, and he'd get stuck in combat with them, and he'd give the Great Unclean one chance to sort of run past him. So there was a few. I'd sort of put them there with a few options. Liam was just like, "What are you doing? You're just being stupid. Just send them forward." And I was like, "No, I've got plans. I'm sure something will work out." Because at that point they were just gonna get blitzed off the board by something. They would never have got time to get around, I don't think. So I was like, I'll just put them there, use them as this sort of cover trap bait type thing, and see what goes on. Everything else sort of zoomed forward. And
over on my left, your right, the Flies and the Jade Lancers and Sentinel were having a bit of a standoff.
Yes. So I moved them basically this to the front side of the woods, and sort of where there's an objective that you can just sort of see between the Sentinel's weapon and his elbow. So I moved them to sort of just to force Liam to move, basically. They were just outside the Sentinel's charge arc, but the Lancers were there, and I thought, if he wants to charge with them, hopefully I can pass some ward saves and get some attacks back on them. And I would have got my sort of I would have got to shoot with the death heads as well, so potentially got a wound or 2 through with that. So that was my turn 1.
And then there's a bit where we didn't take photos, and in effect the kind of tipping point of the game was where my lantern went over the plague bearers to the other side, ready to throw bombs at stuff. Did it normal stuff and killed a handful of bits and bobs, but left itself quite open to being charged by the Demon Prince. Demon Prince went in.
So at this point his turn, he then random moved my plague drones and made a mistake by they basically had like a no, you just reduced the movement massively.
I'd activated a no-fly banner.
No fly banner. So they were stood in front of the Lancers and had like a movement 1 charge. So he fled with his Lancers, but used Swift Drive and fled off the board with those. So that gave me my only points of the game. Before I recharged them into the Sentinel and just got absolutely destroyed. My Demon Prince sort of Yeah,
charge your lantern.
he'd been given D6. He'd been given the random move and was about 4 inches away from the balloon. But I rolled high enough to get him into the balloon, but I made a mistake in not charging out the balloon. So
Which
I won the. I assume we drew the combat because
we drew the combat. Exactly,
drew.
drew. So I
drew
couldn't
the
do
combat. So he couldn't disengage. But then he'd charged into the Furies with his lord. Got Spectral Doppelganger off on like an 11, then rolled a 12 for hits on Spectral Doppelganger, so wiped out all the Furies. So my little speed bump that after his attacks he'd only kill 2, I think. So and then suddenly killed them all with the Doppelganger. So my little speed bump then just disappeared, and he sort of overran into the Great Unclean One and just killed him with the impact hits.
Killed him dead.
Yeah, killed him with impact hits, and then that allowed him to then charge my Demon Prince the next turn and kill him because I wasn't locked in a challenge with the balloon. So he wiped him off. My Plague Bearers made the mistake of setting foot in the woods, and then got pinned in place by every illusion spell under the sun for the rest of the game. I think Liam rolled an 11 plus on every spell he cast.
I did consistently do that. It was horrendous.
It was insane. Like literally, just he failed one illusion spell in the game. But given that like they're all 10s and 11s to cast, he was just throwing them out, and just doppelganger after doppelganger as well. Getting, I think 7 was the lowest on hits, and it was pretty brutal. And my army just stood still effectively for the game. Between he was casting Mirage on the beasts, the D6 movement spell on the Plague Bearers,
and then they were in the wood. There was cannon fire. And it was just adding up to, I think, my movement 1 for like 3 turns of the game.
Yeah, I think I was movement 0 at one point. I was literally just like, cool, okay, I'll just stand here. And I just didn't get, like, you can see I got 3 inches away from his army, and I think that's about as close as I got. I think I got into combat once with your infantry, beat them in combat, but then they just fell back a few inches, and I never got close enough again to get near them.
I think at the end, like, I might have charged him with Juggernaut and something else. Just
I think that my BSB was just alive at the end in the woods on himself. Like, oh my god! But I got brutalized, and I just don't see. I don't see a game where this army, or even an army that plays similar to this, like a full send style army. I don't see how they can win against this a cafe list like this. I mean, don't get me wrong, if Liam rolled a miscast and couldn't cast any more magic spells for a turn on his first spell, and all his weapons misfired, and it gave me that time to get into combat, I would run through him, but I just couldn't get into the combat, which was the issue. So yeah, it was quite humbling after having 2 6-0 wins to then take a 6-0 loss. With the only points I got was from Liam killing himself, and I think I killed 1 infantry by myself.
Yeah, you can see. Oh, you might have killed 2. Look at that unit at the top. With
3
missing from the movement trade.
So it
wasn't loads.
No. So at that point, I then dropped down to like 7th or 8th in the rankings.
Just ruin it for everyone. Just ruining it for everybody.
I won't go that far.
Ruin it for Jack, Liam. You ruin it for Jack.
My poor Great Unclean One. So going into game 2, into day 2. So Liam was sitting pretty at the top. I dropped down to 7th or 8th, and I got paired into this Orcs and Goblins Empire army, which was nicely converted up and sort of pretty cool to look at. But it was a gun line, and I just effectively played the cafe gun line, so I was not feeling optimistic, which didn't help with my Great Unclean One. Got down to 2 wounds turn 1 from the cannons again. I was like, oh,
you've got to start putting it behind stuff.
But he's the only thing that in my army that can wound things. So it's not ideal. So So yeah, I basically had 2 units of handgunners. So it basically went for a symmetrical deployment on the opposite side of the board. He had his demigriffs in the center with a sort of fighty lord alongside those. Although he was more kitted up to be defensive than fighty. Sort of had the ward save banner and a few things that just sort of made them more defensive. He just had a lance, I think, as his offensive weapon. They had the steam tank next to them, units of handgunners either side, and then he had all his artillery on the right flank, protected by some outriders, some road wardens. And then on the left flank, he had just a unit of knights. So yeah, he got turn 1 and blasted my Great Unclean One down to 2 wounds. So he spent most of the game hiding behind that bit of terrain you can see on the left there. In fact,
Have I put a photo in the wrong place? Why have you got 5? Why are they Savage Orc Boar Boys?
They're his knights.
Okay.
Cool. His orc, this is his Orc Empire.
Empire, yeah. They do look cool. I've seen the photos of them actually. They do look quite cool.
So my Great Unclean One spent the game just hiding behind that wooden sort of fort there from artillery. He did suffer a couple of wounds to hand gunner fire, so he was clinging on at the end with, I think, a wound left, just like cowering. So on the other side of the board where you can't see, there's sort of big hill in the middle of in between sort of deployment zones on the right flank, and I'd vanguarded my Furies up to that and basically just left one peeking around either side of it. So he came in and tried to kill them off with his road wardens, but I effectively had hard cover because he could only see one Fury. So he was hitting on like 7s or 8s or something like that and just didn't kill any. And then it allowed me to get the charge off again. He tried his fire and flee thing, but again, because of the hard cover, I think he killed 1. And my Furies got in and just tore up like 10 outriders. 10
so
of these road wardens.
You have to have 50% line of sight now, don't you? With a skirmishing unit to charge. Well, over 50% since the FAQ.
Oh, I might have cheated then. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, you're right. I think. Yeah. I had 2 or 3, so I probably didn't have 50%. So I probably cheated. But it didn't make much difference. I killed them, and then they just died to grape shot from the cannon. And then his cannons basically had. So that basically stopped me getting into his artillery when he sort of grape shotted them. And just left his cannons with free reign the whole game, which is why the Great Unclean One had to stay hidden. I'd hoped that I would have taken. They basically got dropped after all my flying stuff, so he was able to put them on the opposite side of the board from anything that could really challenge them. The Plague Bearers, the Beast of Nurgle got Steed of Shadow did up the board. They're monstrous infantry, so I just threw those up the board. In front of those. So I basically put the Nurglings in front of the Demigriffs, and I knew they'd hold them up for a couple of turns. I was starting to get a bit, starting to get to know what the army could do now, and I knew those Nurglings could hold up and sort of keep the grind on for a couple of turns. So I figured
are they
I'll
like
hold those
6
up.
wounds each or something?
7 wounds each.
7, yeah.
So I was like, I'll plunk them in there. They'll hold those up. It'll give me time to hopefully chew through the stuff either side of them, and then again come back in and sort of mop those up at the end. I made a mistake here in that I put the Demon Prince there. Initially, I put him a bit further back, and then I moved him further forward, stood right in front of the handgunners, and then realized he was then no longer protected from shooting, and so I was like, I'll put him back next to the Plague Bearers, and left him basically so he had like a couple of mil where the steam tank could wheel past the Plague Bearers and clip his base. So I just assumed he's going to charge into the Plague Bearers with the steam tank. They'll hold for ages, and it'll then give the Demon Prince time to sort of chop up some things. But he charged the Demon Prince with the steam tank in the front and in the flank with the knights. So you can see I'd moved my plague drones up next to them to stop them drilling out more than effectively one on one side. The least amount of attacks going into the Demon Prince, the better. So I'd sort of just thought I'll plunk them there, and it'll just sort of keep him a bit more honest. But yeah, he just went for the charge and went all in. and he did nothing to me. I challenged. He got his impact hits. I don't think he did any wounds, or I saved them on my ward save. I challenged down the champion in the knights. Got a couple of wounds there. I think we drew. Next turn, I put the plague drones into the rear of those, killed all those, and then proceeded to just play a tag for the rest of the game with the steam tank, and I killed it the very last turn of the game with my demon prince left on 1 wound. So I've literally just been. He had the 2d6 no armor saves assailment spell, so I was just chipping a few wounds off each turn, and just sort of grinding through. Killed off the knights. The beasts got into the handgunners over on that right flank. They held up, which gave his demis time to chew through the nurglings, reform, and then hit the rear of the beasts. What he didn't expect was that the beasts just didn't care. They just got easy combat res from the front, killing handgunners, and just took the hits in the back basically. And I think I might have lost by a little bit, but it was negligible. Negligible. Negligible.
Negligible. There you go.
And then that gave time for the plague bearers to hit them in the flank, hit the demigriffs in the flank while they were in the rear of the beasts who don't have a rear. And then the beasts had some handgunners in the front, and I just had enough static res from the block and easy combat res from the handgunners that I won the combat. I chased down the handgunners basically fled off the board. It's like 3 or 4 left. No, maybe 6 or 7 left, because that caused a panic on his level 4 who stood next to them, who then fled off the board as well. The beasts then sort of headed over towards the cannons, while the plague bearers chased down and caught the demigriffs, or chased, or I think they fled, and then I charged them the next turn, and it forced them to flee off the board instantly. So I killed that off, killed the steam tank off. So I think he had a cannon left at the end of the game, and he'd killed my nurglings. He got the points, some of the points to my great and clean one because he was on 1 wound. He got some of the points to my demon prince because he was on 1 wound, and yeah, that was what he got. So I think this was a 5-1.
Another big win either way.
Yeah, so this was an objectives one. We each had an objective on our same side, and I basically ignored mine. And I pushed him off his objective, and I stole his objective basically. So I was getting a couple of points from his objective and just killing everything around it. So it's, a good win. Against the list that I was, after taking that cannon fire first turn, I was like, oh, not again.
And your last game into Battalions.
Yes. So yeah, game 5. I was now up to joint second.
Table 2, yeah.
Joint second in the rankings. So there's me and another Bretonnian player on 17 points. I think Liam was up to a bit higher at this point. And Dan Grundy, who I played up against in this list, was just behind me on maybe 15 points. But it was very tight in the rankings, basically from like second to 8th, 9th at this point. Yeah. Everyone was within a game of each of us, so it could have gone sort of anywhere. So I knew I needed to get some points out of it. I was quietly confident that Liam would do the business on the top table, but I just knew I needed to get as many points in this game as I could to try and keep myself in those sort of podium places. So this is the weird deployment where we're in the sort of weird in the table quarters opposite each other, with the special feature sort of blocking the baggage train. Yeah, blocking the middle and the baggage train. So I had a house behind my deployment, which I just put my baggage train behind. I was like, I'll just leave that there. If he wants to waste, Pegasus Knights going to kill the baggage train, he's more than welcome to. And his baggage train is just in front of his Pegasus Knights and alongside all his infantry blocks and his Duke and his BSB. So it was fairly well protected. He Umdanar is about where to put his Grail Knights, which he ended up putting right at the back of the board on the left behind that hill. Because he had this sort of big infantry line, it was either basically put them behind the infantry and they'd get pinned in there, but it meant that Elise would have been in dispel range turn 1, or he basically put them out on that flank, out of dispel range turn 1, and then had to sort of run around the side, but then would be in a decent position to charge maybe turn 2. So my Nurglings sort of set up over that way with the sole intention of blocking them off, and keeping them in place for as long as they could, and everything else pretty much just set up on this side of the building. And in my head, my plan was to focus on one side of the building, and basically change my deployment using Seed of Shadows, and just pull one of the units sort of onto the other side, and just try and rush through one side and see what I could do. Obviously the Duke was pretty scary. He had the Ogre Blade, so I didn't really want to get into combat with him with either of my characters. I knew my army has basically no armor piercing in it, so going into any of the knights wasn't appealing to me. So I just sort of was like, right, I'll try to get into combat with the infantry blocks, clog the board up so he can't really get in with any of the rest of his stuff. And so that's what I did. So for 10 ones, I got the Nurglings basically pushed up towards the Grail Knights. Outside the charge arcs, they didn't have a charge, but close enough that I'd just be able to get in the way and stop them pushing forward and supporting. The Plague Bearers Seed of Shadow to basically where the Nurglings were. So just jumped over to the other side of the flank, and the Beast of Nurgle and everything else was pushed up behind them. My two characters hid behind this building, on the sort of left-hand side the left face that we can see, outside of charge arc of his characters and his Pegasi, but just sort of peek in a position where if he shifted at all to the left, then maybe they would be in my charge arc for the next turn. He sort of played similarly defensive. He moved his characters to the opposite face of the building, and so his Duke was on that side. His Pegasus basically formed almost a line from the baggage train, alongside the men at arms who'd sort of squared up to face the oncoming Plague Bearers and Beast of Nurgle. And so into my turn 2, I effectively had a charge with everything that I could take, and I didn't really see any other game plan to capture those Pegasi, capture the characters. So I just decided to take everything that I had. So the Nurglings, actually the Nurglings didn't charge, they just plonked themselves in front of the Grail Knights, and no, they did, they charged them and blunted them. They charged the Grail Knights, blunted them, and sort of pinned them in place between that brown building and the hill, and sort of held them there for 3 or 4 turns. So they did their job brilliantly. The Plague Bearers charged into the block of archers on the left-hand side of the men at arms. They got in, beat them, and sort of tried to chase them, but I think he rolled like a 5, and I was like, hey, I got you, and then I rolled a 3. So my Plague Bearers basically just finished alongside the men at arms, but not in a decent charge position. But his men at arms were in position to charge into the flank of the Plague Bearers. He'd given me like a 6-inch charge with my Great Unclean One peeking around the side of the building into one of his Pegasus Knights, and they were sort of squished in such a way that when I connected, if I could get that charge and connect into it, he'd basically just form a conga line behind it. There's no place for him to sort of form out, and he'd just basically just form this one conga line, and it'd really limit the attacks coming back into me. So I took that charge and I got that in. Again, I didn't really want any play into his Duke. So my Demon Prince came around this sort of backside of the building, and similar to how I used them against Liam, I put the Furies basically around him in a little ring. So effectively, but the closest one was sort of to the sort of top side of the Duke, so that if he charged the Furies, he would end up charging in such a direction that the overrun wouldn't go into the Demon Prince. And the Demon Prince was basically just lined up to charge into him or the Pegasus Knights or the flank of the men at arms the next turn. The Plague Drones had sort of flown behind the Nurglings to support them and just sat touching them to keep them pinned in place so that they couldn't give ground. So it kept the Grail Knights pinned in combat effectively for like 4 turns. Then
I remember I walked over just before this bit, and there was just like 4 never-ending combats on the table. Just a big mess behind that building.
Yeah, so the Plague Bearers got into the archers. Nurglings were in with the Grail Knights. The Great and Clean one was in with the Pegasi Knights, which had its BSB in. The Beasts failed their charge. They had the easiest charge. They had like a 3-inch charge and failed it into the men at arms. So we're just sort of in no man's land in front of them. The Great and Clean one, his charge had left him basically overlapping the men at arms. So if he beat those pegs, he would overrun into the men at arms, which I didn't really want to happen because they had a lot of static combat res. I didn't really fancy that fight, so I was a bit worried about that. But that did mean that if he won the fight, the men at arms wouldn't actually be able to charge into the flank of the Plague Bearers after where they left up because they couldn't wheel past the Great and Clean one. So it was a good thing and a bad thing at that point. So that Plague Bearers ran through their target. Nurglings, I think Nurglings might have like drawn their first combat into the Grail Knights, or just like suffered very minimal wounds. So I was very happy with where they were. And the Great Unclean one killed the champion and drew combat into the Grail Knights because of the BSB banner. I think he had like the war banner on the BSB. So although I got like pretty much max overkill on the champion, I actually just drew combat. So which wasn't bad for me because it stopped me overrunning into his men at arms. It stopped them being able to charge the Plague Bearers. And it kept the Pegasus Knights in this weird sort of squished in place where not much could happen. It did, however, leave the Duke an inch away from my flank with a impossible to fail charge. So he went into the side of the Great Unclean one. The men at arms went into the front of the Great Unclean one. The Grail Knights continued to sort of try and chew through some Nurglings. His archers that I'd beat rallied sort of up towards where his tape measure is, and those units of knights just sort of continued to skirt around the edge of the board and sort of got to roughly where the baggage train is. His Duke did a couple of wounds to me. I got him down to 1 wound with my Great Unclean one, but by the time static combat res had gone in, I think I suffered like 11 wounds worth of crumble, and the Great Unclean one just disappeared.
It's not called crumble, Jack.
Yeah, sorry. Instability. He tried to overrun with his Duke at that point, which would have sort of sent him across the front of the men at arms into the flank of the Plague Bearers. But he rolled like a 6 on his overrun, even with his swift stride, and landed sort of smack bang straight in front of his men at arms, directly in front of my Beast of Nurgle, and he had 1 wound left. So quite happily they charged into him and killed him off, and overran into the men at arms. So at that point he'd killed my Duke and he'd killed my general and I'd killed his general, and that was the only things that had pretty much died on the board. But yeah, so the beasts went into the front of the men at arms. The Plague Bearers sort of skirted round to sort of chase the other unit of archers and sort of threaten the baggage train. The Demon Prince then went into the Pegasus Knights again, who then again had another weird sort of gap that they had to fill in, and I think one of them died just because they couldn't fit in the gap. They were basically between the back of the men at arms, the archers behind them, my Plague Bearers. So there's basically like a thin slither where a few of them could just slot in, and one just died because it couldn't fit. And the Demon Prince then killed off the BSB sort of that turn. They couldn't give ground anywhere, so he just stayed in combat and proceeded to chew through some more Peg Knights. The Beast of Nurgle got stuck in some horrific grind with the men at arms who kept rolling unbreakable because they were controlling the special feature, and they just kept rolling unbreakable and just sort of basically stayed there as I slowly sort of ground through them. The flies at that point decided to abandon the Nurglings to their fate and hit the flank of the men at arms, and so yeah, slowly between them we just sort of ground and eventually chewed through them. My plague bearers ended up in some nasty position. I made a bit of a mistake. I beat the archers in combat, but I had a lance of knights on one side of me, a unit of archers that I'd rallied in sort of my rear, and then this unit of archers running the other way. So, and rather than chasing the archers and just reforming to face the way I wanted to, which I should have done, I just restrained and sort of turned up to face the knights who I thought were the biggest threat. At which point Liam was there shaking his head, going, "What are you doing that for?" But so they all charged into me the next turn, but I just sort of shrugged them off. They just didn't do anything really to me. And I finished off the Peg Knights. I think I killed the normal Lance of Knights. Got the Men at Arms. Got his Duke. Got his BSB. And I think I won this one as a 4-2, which put me on 21 points out of 30 for the weekend.
Decent.
Not bad at all, really.
So yeah, going into the weekend, I was hoping for maybe 2 wins across the weekend with the Demons, thinking not really knowing what to expect and not knowing the rules. So I was very happy with the the state of play after the event finished. And I knew, sort of looking up at the top table, that Liam was on 20 points, I think, at this point. So I knew that a 6-0 win to his opponent would put his opponent in first place, me in second place, and Liam in third place. Or some other mismatch of sort of scores so it was still all to play for at this point. Well, it wasn't, because Liam had already finished his game and was just stood over shaking his head at my game.
My game 4, I was against Dan, who you played in game 5, with Bretonians. Kind of a similar pattern to other games where people try and engage and I try and stop them engaging me for as long as possible. That picture in the top left with a unit of 20 bowmen, 4 Grail Knights, and about 10 men at arms was my first turn shooting phase and movement phase. The double bomb rack hit in the middle of the unit of 20 archers, and both bombs killed 11, and there's only 20 in the unit, so I overkilled the unit with those. And then I also got Plague of stuff and started throwing grenades at Grail Knights because it's extremely expensive per model. The Peg Knights hid for the first turn and then came out to play a little bit. Came towards my cannons as the Peg Lord made the same kind of route from a different direction. I had to be a little bit careful with the lantern because the Peg Lord having the Ogre Blade, it's one of the few things that it actually fears. So it can just one round it if it opponent gets a little lucky, or I get a little unlucky on war saves one or the other.
You also had the thing that could give it up to like 8 or 9 attacks a turn
virtue
as well.
of the Knightly Temper.
You have
to be careful. Yeah. I failed a couple of charges in the mid game onto the Peg Knight from my Juggernaut, which kind of made it a bit more interesting than I would have liked it to be in terms of losing artillery. But in turns 5 and 6, I ended up basically running artillery around the board, separating them up, trying to prevent overruns from their Peg Lord, and managed to keep one of them alive. So he killed 2. I kept one alive. It's not too bad. Granite Sentinels continue to go down to everything that shoots strength 3 shots at them. Just chipping away constantly because he's only got that 4+ save and no ward or regen. So it does add up over time, especially when you're a large target and he's got Volify. So he's only losing like 4 shots from a unit of archers and a 5x5 block, 5x4 block. And it just adds up over time.
Because he's not exactly fast either, the Sentinel, so we can't
Yeah.
like he's not getting in turn 2.
Exactly.
Can't
I
get
think
into combat quick enough. Yeah.
he charged some knights into turn 2, but they failed their terror test and ran away, and then it meant I couldn't charge until turn 3. By which point I'd been shot a couple of times, and I think the Peg Knights charged him when he was on 1 wound left, and finished him off before he got to strike. That was after my Shugengan had failed to pin them into combat. But I did get quite lucky towards the end, towards turn 4, where my unit of Jade Warriors on my right-hand flank, who had been kind of shuffling with a unit of men at arms for an objective, got a long overrun or a long charge, and my Shugengan went in as well. And basically, I pinned that unit in. The impact hits killed the stubborn guy out of the unit. Well, the second champion, that meant that my Jade Warrior champion could accept the challenge, and my Lord could go to town, doppelgangered off 7 or 8 guys. And it just meant that I then got, because of the flea angle as well, it meant that I got to clip the Pegasus Knights and the BSB and grind them out with, again, the the Shugengan Lord doing his thing. And I don't think I got Doppelganger off, but like the amount of attacks he's putting out anyway just kind of tipped combat into favour when the Peg Knights are only strength 4 with no AP. So it kind of just, we're going to go into the Jade Warriors, which at that 3+ armor save, re-rolling ones after the first time when you charge, just gives them far more staying power than they have any right to have in the game. And yeah, so I think that one finished 5-1 in the end, because I'd obviously given up a couple of war machines and not killed the Pegasus Lord. But the Lantern spent most of that game trying to shoot off Lady Elise and the Grey Knights. So earned its points back, but didn't have a big impact outside of that first turn.
It's not hard to earn its points back, Liam.
It's 315, so it's not cheap, but yeah, it did probably double its points back in that game. And then into the last game, all 3 Plutonians. Again, baggage train, special feature in the middle. I did say, do you want to leave this wood here? Because it obviously been moved for army being laid out for painting after the previous game. And he's like, yeah, leave it there, that's fine. So it got left there. Wasn't my intention to have that there. So it was a full melee Bretonian army on the diagonal deployment, like Jack said, the opposite corner deployment, which isn't quite as bad as old Battle for the Past, but it just means that it's never ever reaching artillery pieces, and I get 3 to 4 to 5 turns of shooting into things to just whittle it down, so it's not really a fight when we get there.
Yeah, because it looks like he's not even deployed at the front of his deployment either.
No. On turn 1, the Lantern killed 4 or 5 of one of his lancers, and was in a position to be charged by Peg Knights and that lance. The lance charged in, died to a standing shoot. The Peg Knights went in, got challenged out, and I won the combat. Or I think I disengaged after that combat. And basically, he walked towards me for a few turns. The unit of men-at-arms eventually got charged by my Jade Lancers and fought them off over multiple turns, whereas the Questing Knight and my Shugengan Lord got into a bit of a scrap over multiple turns of combat. And I think maybe after 3 or 4 turns, I'd eventually broken my Shugengan broke from combat. So I wasn't rolling Doppelganger. I don't think I had Doppelganger in this game, and just wasn't rolling particularly well, or it was making armor saves, but it happens. But basically, I whittled it down. Lantern came round, artillery started to add up, and I think in turn 5, I charged into Cecil Gaston in his unit of foot knights. Cecil failed miserably, I killed about 6 or 7 foot knights, but he held on, and then in the following turn, Settle Monster Slayered my Sentinel to a big cheer because it's the first one he'd managed to.
So it was a massive cheer. At that point, I was behind going, "Oh shit, Liam's lost," and like I need to now, need to up my game and try and get try and get some more points out of it.
It was actually kind of a sympathy kill for Cecil, but yeah. So at the end of the game, I think we called it at 5-1. If we'd added it up properly, it might have been different, but it was irrelevant at that point. I picked up.
It wasn't irrelevant for as far as you know, that because that 1 point could have scuppered me.
No, unlikely. It was
unlikely, Jack.
I think I dropped 3 points over the weekend. So yeah, went pretty well.
Yeah, but the other cafe list at the event came bottom.
It's like first and bottom, was it? Yeah,
it got rescored today, and it was actually the bottom.
Is that the picture you sent? Yeah, no, not quite.
No,
that's the old one on there.
Yeah, that's the old one. But
what was actually in that list?
There's a double Sentinel.
Yeah,
double
balloon. No balloon.
Yeah, no lantern.
And it was like the guy's 5th game of Warhammer or something like that. So it was new to the game, and yeah, his list wasn't quite as optimized. Not even Liam's just not even. It's not. It's optimized, but it's not tool.
It's not pushing the limits of what you can do. But yeah, so
it's one of everything, pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah, just about. We give out a load of funky awards for different stuff. Me and Jack both killed 13 characters over the weekend, and I won the roll off, so I got the certificate for Witch Hunter. I said, like, Jack can borrow it at weekends, like every other weekend, take it abroad once a year, that kind of thing. With the rolls. Jack picked up 2nd place overall after that convincing win in round 5. And as mentioned, I picked up overall victory. And that's kind of it, really. Cafe things again.
Well done to both of you.
People don't know what we're doing.
But you can see how close TPs are there. Like my opponent, I played game 5. That was, gunning for, top 2. He suddenly dropped down to 9th place. And there's from 3rd place is on 19 points. 13th place is on 14 points, so you can see how like this 6-0 scoring makes this much closer spread of scores rather than like a 20-0 system.
Yeah,
Liam would have been on 100 points, and then I would have been on like 70 points behind him or something like that.
I really like how they've done it, me.
So yeah, it stops people just being able to
just run away with it. Yeah, well, I think
you can obviously, but like it just feels like mid tables will always be a bit closer.
I mean, going back to our event, Liam, that obviously you won. I think was it game 3 where you didn't play Brian, but we thought you might have done. But because there was like a point, wasn't there, in between because he'd not scored enough or something along those lines. I think that's why I do like it, because you do have to go all out to get as many points as you can, which means you've got to play the entire game through. Some games where it's just kill everything. I've lost 90% of my army in 2 turns. There's no point of playing. It does show you that you do need to, play the game for whatever points, because anything can happen, right? It's a dice game.
Yeah, I think I much prefer this style to the lose a game and you can't podium or you can't win the event. But it's a lot closer. I think I like the condensed version over the 20-0 as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because it's a variant on the 20-0, isn't it? But I think because of the missions added into the match play guide, there's always points to play for as well. It's not just like it's not just killing stuff. It's holding an objective, killing a baggage train, holding a quarter. There's a lot more, and like even in the domination ones, there's 1,000 points to play for.
Well, when you go to 9 turns, and you got we even forgot the domination score in mine and Liam's game. We should have had an extra 1,000 points. from our
Well, the
game.
domination scored at the end of the game anyway, so it doesn't matter what turn you score.
Oh, so we didn't do it at the end of the
Oh,
game.
we
forgot.
just
So-
forgot. Like he'd tabled me so badly that he didn't even need those points to get a 6-0.
I effectively scored 1,300 points over 5 games.
And the next closest was 8,000. So like, yeah.
I think
There's
you
a lot
might
of
get.
victory points on offer.
I think you might have a new title next week, Liam. Hobby killer.
But yeah,
That's definitely Brian's.
yeah. But it was a really good event.
It looked
It
good,
was
to be fair. I know he's posted a
nice.
lot on
It was a nice
social
chill
media as well.
atmosphere.
It was.
Yeah, it was, and the venue was good.
Food was really good.
Food was good if you went vegan. I just survived on chips all weekend. Everyone else had burgers and nuggets and all the deep fried goodness.
Was there not anywhere around that you could have got something? Or
It was a bit in the middle of nowhere, really, wasn't it?
is it on like an
if you'd
industrial
asked.
estate, isn't it?
It is, but like with a co-op and stuff about a 2-minute drive away. But
yeah.
And we went to the pub on Saturday night. It was around the corner. But yeah, all good.
Perfect.
Yeah, we went.
I'd like to go to one there. I've never actually been to. Is it City Collectibles? Is it?
Yeah. I'd definitely go to any that they run in the future. If me and Liam are allowed back, I might be allowed. Liam might not be allowed back.
I mean, one day all three of us have got to go to an event as a team because that's not happened yet. It's either like obviously you two have been to this one. I think you've done one together again, haven't you, before? And then now me and Jack are going to one in Durham. So we always seem to be elsewhere.
You'll see that column there for monster kills. That there wasn't actually that many sort of monsters at the event. I faced one all weekend, I think. So there wasn't, we weren't seeing those.
I'd like the character kill one.
Yeah,
the character kill one's cool.
No, that was good, especially when you went into. Well, the Beastmen ones were quite nice ones because you could even get 5 or 6 characters into those, and the Undead one was quite nice for having a lot of characters.
Yeah. I've got an idea for my December event, which I've obviously not said anything yet, but so I'm going to buy little Santa hats, and you get. I think I'm going to do 5, either 3 or 5, and you have to give it a unit. And what the Santa hats will get is this is me like just completely going off the rails with it. So if you give the unit the Santa hat, they get access to snowballs. So they're going to be strength 1 throwing weapons.
Nice.
But the unit who gets the unit gets the hat gets the basically the additional war gear. But then you score points for every hat you claim. So a bit more like the character kills. Yeah. Just thought we'd been around the Christmas time. Just a bit of fun.
Why not?
Yeah, I think we spoke about this as well, Liam, didn't we? Doesn't seem to be as many, not fun events because events are fun, but packs aren't necessarily like that now, are they? You don't really see that many, or haven't seen many within the old world anyway. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
It's definitely a tournament.
I think
it's a tournament.
The game's still developing. Like those sort of funner packs come out when the game starts getting a bit stale, and you need to sort of mix the rules up a bit. Whereas because this is still just obviously we're still having FAQs dropped, we're still having match play guides dropped. Everything's still changed. Like we're getting these new armies that are pay to win. We just haven't had the need yet to have.
It's not even paid to win. He got given it. That's the worst thing.
He worked hard on those, and he's been waiting a long time to play.
Yeah, I know.
So he's allowed his moment is shit for him. He's taken his spot in the Masters purely by Cafe alone.
That's the plan. To play him now before they get nerfed, and
but you get to the Masters, and you'll have to take something rubbish, and you'll be like, I can play Warhammer.
The thing is, especially with the lanterns, I don't know what you can do to them without actually just putting the points up, because you take away pretty much all their rules.
Playing against Liam, the lantern's not the issue on its own. It combined with all the things that stop you moving, and it just being able to have free reign. Like it's just a perfect synergy across the whole line.
Well, that's it. So on the flip side, then
it relies on Liam rolling 10s, 11s on his magics to get those spells off. So it's not like a guarantee. Like at some point he will have a tournament where he never gets a spell off, and his artillery's misfire, and he comes like 15th. Because when people get into that army, it just crumbles. He's just not had that tournament yet.
It's getting there, which is the issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, I think, because it is such a low drop army as well, in terms of, I mean, even if you get your core and you can put detachments in there as well,
and
so
you
can
Liam's so good at using
smaller.
Liam's so good at using the terrain, like I said, like he's, everyone looks at his army and goes, okay, those cannons are the easy points in the army, and he, puts them in the woods where once you start getting into them, you're losing your Swift stride, you're losing movement, and he's then, combining that with the other movement spells, and you end up just getting stuck in front of them, like, oh, the juicy target's right in front of me, but I just I can't move.
The thing with the fire rain battery, it doesn't really matter where you put it, because it can shoot whenever it is. You can just hide it and stick it behind a building.
That's why on the list, because you've got the 2 blocks, the cav, the sentinel, your Gengan, and they all take up space.
Yeah.
So by the time you've got 2 cannons, you can't block in your own fire lanes.
Yeah.
So having that fire lane that can go behind a unit, not have to worry remotely, is, I think, great. But at the same time, it's probably getting dropped for a second lantern to face hammer. So,
Yeah, I'm going to say, I think the weakest part of your list is probably the Sentinel, because it's almost situational in terms of what it can fight. Like Jack said, there are hardly any monsters there, so it's not redundant, but it's...
Yeah, I was going to say, the first event you took to, you got quite a few monster slayers with it, didn't you? So it sort of paid itself off in those, and sort of managed to hold some spaces. But I think, balanced out 95% of the time, a balloon's probably going to be better.
Probably the fire lane that gets dropped for the balloon, because the fire lane is 173 points with the ogre, and the grenade, the lantern with the bomb rack and the grenade is 170.
That's insane.
So,
see, I think you'd be better off dropping one of the cannons rather than the fire rain, just because the fact that you're going to have a million.
I think if the cannons, I know a few places now are doing that the cannons movement debuff doesn't stack. So I think if that becomes enforced, I think then maybe. But then
even then, you just do it in 2 places and enjoy it.
Yeah. And it just gives you that sort of backup if your first one misfires and you roll your misfire to a misfire, which you seem to like to do. The odd time you do roll misfire, you always
do that fairly regularly, but I've never had one blow up on me yet. So let's go see. It's only 1 in 36, isn't it, to blow it up?
Yeah.
Well, 1 in 36 to trigger the midfire to midfire, and only 1 in 6 of those blows up. So
it's whatever you roll on the dice, mate. Don't believe it.
You play enough games, and eventually you hit that one.
No,
what is it?
I just think
when it happens.
I think the fire rain just gives you a bit more versatility, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, you've seen my Tomb King list. One of those would just shred through probably most of the infantry. I know it heals back, but stuff like the Empire box
shreds through infantry.
Yeah, the balloons.
Yeah, it's the same thing, but better.
But I'm just that's like saying, I don't know, a certainty. That is the thing. That the power in the list is the balloons. I think we've all spoke about this. I think without the lanterns and possibly, well, in fact, just without the lanterns, they're basically Empire, right? But I still think
that lantern lets you go
get a dragon.
Things.
Yeah, not yet. They don't.
And
technically, Empire will get a dragon as well.
Enough about cafe. Let's talk about demons.
I'm going to say, yeah. How did you find it? Because I've not seen a full Nurgle army on the table before. So
no, so it was nice just to have something different for people to look at on the table. They were a lot more resilient than I anticipated. They have quite a static play style. They're just effectively a full send, but don't do much offensively and don't lose much defensively. So they basically just become this sort of like mid-table grind army with the only real offensive output coming from the characters. The Great and Clean one.
Demons in general, though, I think they're all kind of like that, aren't they? They've all got the pros and cons, but they all seem to be.
I think Khorne seems like the hounds are pretty aggressive, and the harpies like strength 5, the furies at strength 5, like they feel a lot more aggressive, and obviously lose the regen and stuff. But I think the Great and Clean one is probably a liability in the list. he's just too slow. He's just too slow to get across the board, and with him being a bail him off is just a cannon magnet. So I think going forward he would get dropped. I'm not 100% sure as to whether he would just get replaced with a second Demon Prince. That potentially just goes into the Plague Bearers to give them some punch. The issue there is that he's on the wrong base size to fit into them, so he'd have to go on the end, which isn't a massive issue, but it just makes the the unit a bit more unwieldy.
Are they on 30s?
They're on 30s, and he's a 50-50.
Does the Demon Prince not have a bracket size though? It's not just 50-50, is it?
No, but he's not got a 60-60.
Ah, fair. Okay. You know what?
So,
I'd be tempted to just put more bodies in, dude.
Yeah, the thing is, though, like, the Plague Bearers, other than against Liam, never drop less than half bodies. So even with only 20
no, I mean like another
there,
unit of them. So 2
yeah,
units.
Yeah, so that's. I think my thoughts were either put another Demon Prince in, but the issue then is there's not much weapon-wise. Like once you've bought the Aether Blade, there's no other weapon upgrades that you can get for that second Demon Prince. So he just ends up with an ensorcel weapon unless you change his mark to something different. Potentially make him. Unfortunately, they don't have access to the same weapons that the Great and Clean ones have, just as sort of like the weapon upgrade options, which is a real shame. So he just becomes another not really outputty. He's just got AP1 on his ensorcel blade, so he doesn't really fill that niche then that I need him to. So potentially a second unit of 4 Nurglings, because they were just so good at just holding stuff away from me while I dealt with other things.
So they core as well, the Nurglings.
Core Nurglings. So they're just really good for putting in the way. The issue is then that I start having less things that can actually kill things. So I think although it stopped your nasty things getting into me, I'm not getting that many points. But if I'm reliant on getting objective points and stuff, then maybe that's not maybe I can win games from that.
What about a Soul Grinder?
Soul Grinder is an option.
Or whatever they are, Nurgle-wise.
Yeah, Soul Grinder is an option. I just think for the points you pay for it,
slaps in combat.
I'd rather have another unit of Beast and Nurgle or another unit of Plague. Like it's the same cost as like a full unit of them, a full unit of, and they're like score. Your Beast and Nurgle could be a scoring unit if you get them over. So if you have 4 bodies in there, same with your Plague drones, your Nurglings can be scoring. I don't see need for a second unit of Plague Bearers. The one that I had seemed to be able to hold up against most things, and it'd be nice to have a decent scoring unit, but the Nurglings can do that job. I could upgrade the Furies to 10 and have them do that job.
Are you adamant on going pure Nurgle?
Yeah, if I play them, I'll be pure. I've got a pure Slanesh army. I've got this pure Nurgle army.
The corn so you're not painting really the skull cannons green.
I've got them. I've got the skull cannons painted red, but on Nurgle bases. If I ever decided to use them, but I think again to fit them into the list, you have to drop the Plague drones, and they're really good for putting pressure on things. That would probably be the most sensible option to at least give me some counter to something like your army, where I can then ping cannonballs across and try and take your artillery out before it slows my army down.
Just stick a bloodthirster in. It's weapon skill 10.
Well, that's the other option. Is I'd take the Nurgle thing out and just put a bloodthirster in there and just yeet him across the board and have some extra pressure. But then you start watering down the pure armies. So I think a mixed Demons army, I think you could make some really, really good armies that synergize quite well, even though the different marks. But I'm just wanting to try out some of the perceived weaker stuff initially, just to see what legs it has and see how I could do. And I was pleasantly surprised to come out with that second place. So we'll see. We'll see if I keep them around for a little bit longer and try out a few more lists at a few events. But it'd
be interesting to see if that does, like if you stick to something and see how it goes for a bit, as opposed to the current hobby butterfly of new tournament, new army.
Nah, that's heresy. When you got all the armies in the in the garage. You've got to recycle through them at some point. At the start of the year, I was like, I'll just run one army this year. And then quickly realized if I did that, it'd take me 15 years to cycle through the different armies. And I was like, oh, actually, that's maybe not the best play. But yeah, I might give them a couple of events in a row. We'll see how they get on. And I think once people have played them once, they maybe actually figure out how to beat them. And sort of, well, yeah, like Linky's saying about people with Cathay. Once you've played it a few times, you'll figure it out and you'll be fine. But I think demons are probably a bit of an easier answer to sort of crack than the Cathay ones.
We should maybe look at that next time then, because we've not got an event, have we, when we're planning on recording next? So maybe we do a bit of a what can you take for different armies to send more of a chance into Cathay.
Yeah,
how to beat Cathay.
Yeah. Break the internet.
Yeah.
GW will be forcing us to take the video down because we'll be affecting their sales.
I mean, the thing is, like, I think it also depends on the missions as well. Like when I played Al with that Beastmen list, what just yeeted up the big block and just stuck me in combat, and I had balloons that can't hold objectives, and I couldn't hit anything because of the slug skin. And we all know how not very good the Jade Warriors are at fighting. They're good at standing there and taking hits. So I was just stuck and I couldn't shoot anything because the stuff that I wanted to shoot was in combat all the time. So I think there's loads and obviously I think there's a Bretonian player that took out one of the Cathay armies and won an event, was it? I can't remember if that was right or not, but I know one of not in Europe.
Orcs and Goblins. Was it
yeah, Orcs and Goblins, obviously, but that's just fanatics anyway. They'll take anything out.
Yeah. I guess with the balloons though, like you've got so many templates that you've got quite a good chance of taking out fanatics before you can get into you, right?
You can't target them, so
yeah. Well, often like
you need a lucky scatter.
They're so plugged up that you can target. Like if you're dropping a template this big, like the odds are you're gonna catch a fanatic
hit something.
Yeah.
Or maybe 30 Outriders with 2 Hellblasters.
We'll see. We'll put it to the test. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there for today. And we'll catch up with you.
Good episode.
Dan will have the video out by midnight tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, to be fair, I could do because this has gone quite seamlessly and not had to edit anything, so it's not too bad. But yeah, what I will do is I will link the guys who ran the event down below, as well as 7th City Collectible, I think it is, in the comment section, or in the description. But yeah, that was episode 10 with double figures, guys. So let's try and get us likes and shares and everything up, all the YouTubey stuff. Sorry, Jack, that's your part, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, if we get up to 200 subscribers, I might break my pure demons rule and mix it up and take a few different gods in there. We'll see.
You heard it here, folks.
I think is it rules that some of them can't actually be in the same army together as well?
No, some of them like so like the Nurgle signature spell affects other like it only doesn't affect Nurgle. So if you haven't got Nurgle in your army, like I could end up weakening my own army if my template scatters over them and that sort of stuff. So there's some. Well, there you go. Then
that's the target. 200 points and 200 likes and subscribes, and Jack's doing a multi-demon list.
Yeah, I'll take over the world.
Imagine. So I think you just beat Liam, and people think you're like world leader.
Well, that is taking over the world. If I can take out Liam's list, then I think I could handle anything.
Liam's never going to get games again now.
Right, thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you in a fortnight or so.
Yeah, good night, good evening.
Later.
Bye.